People cheered, governments held emergency meetings. Scientists wept. And in the shadows of history, a new chapter began. The galaxy had ignored Earth. The galaxy was in chaos. In less than a day, the arrival of humanity's fleet had shattered centuries of peace built on silence and control. Across the stars, alien governments scrambled to understand what had happened. Who were these humans? How had they hidden so well? And most importantly, what did they want? On the planet Virel Prime, heart of the bureaucratic Virelian Empire, panic spread like fire through dry grass. In the capital city of Salin, officials ran between towers of data stone and crystal halls. Meetings were called, emergency reports were filed, laws were reviewed. Nothing in their records prepared them for this. Trellin sat in a cold room deep inside the Ministry of Observation, his skin pale with shock. He had been brought back from Aetheris 9 under heavy escort, questioned for hours, and now placed under watch. He didn't care. All he could see was the message. Again and again, greater than we have always been here. Across the galaxy, others watched with growing fear or curiosity. On Zorath, home of the warlike cleric, generals sharpened weapons and ordered fleets to battle stations. They had never met a species that could hide from them. And now one stood before them, not as enemies, but as something else entirely. On Alaris, where the peaceful Falari studied stars and dreams, scientists wept at the sight of human ships, not out of fear, but joy. For centuries they had prayed for a new voice in the stars. Now it had come. And in the great chambers of the Concord of Stars, the oldest council in known space, debate raged. "Invaders!" cried Minister Zorvath of the Growth Dominion, his scaled face twisted in anger. "They appear without warning, hide for years, then demand our attention. This is not diplomacy, it is aggression." "They haven't fired a single shot," replied Ambassador Lyral of the Falari Union, her voice calm but firm. "They revealed themselves only after being watched for decades. If anyone has acted aggressively, it is us." Silence filled the chamber. The Concord had ruled the galaxy for millennia. They had decided who was allowed to speak, who was allowed to grow, who was allowed to live freely. But now, a new power had arrived, and it did not ask for permission. It simply existed, back on Earth. Commander Ralek stood on the command deck of the Central Orbital Base, watching reports flood in. Every major nation on Earth had agreed to this moment. Every scientist, soldier, leader had worked toward this future. Now it was here. His comm officer stepped forward. "Sir," she said, "we've received a signal from the Concord. They're asking for contact." Ralek smiled. "Of course. They are." He turned to the large screen behind him. It showed the 12 dreadnoughts now floating across the solar system, each one a marvel of human design. Each one built not just for war but for presence. Humanity wasn't here to conquer, but it wasn't here to beg either. "We respond?" Ralek said, but not with words alone. He pressed a button. Across the world, signals were sent. From hidden bases, more ships rose into the sky, some sleek and fast, others massive and powerful. All of them bearing the mark of the asterisk and dominion of sovereign worlds ***. Earth was no longer hiding. And then came the challenge. Across every channel, every language, every corner of known space, a new message was broadcast. This time not just a greeting. This time a test. Greater than to the Concord of Stars. You believed you were the only rulers of this galaxy. You watched us in silence, judged us in secret. Now we offer you a choice. Greater than you may meet us in peace. Or you may prove yourselves worthy in other ways. Greater than we do not seek war. But we will not be ignored. Greater than show us what you are made of. The message ended. Silence followed. Then reactions exploded. Some factions saw it as a threat, others as a challenge. A few saw it for what it truly was, an invitation. An invitation to step into a new age, one not ruled by ancient laws and silent watchers. But by strength, by wisdom, by courage. Back on Virel Prime, Trellin sat alone in a small room. No windows, no view. Just cold walls and silence. He had been called many things since the arrival of the human fleet. Fool, blind observer, failure, Some wanted him punished. Others feared he knew too much, but all he could think about was one question, greater than asterisk, how did we miss this? Asterisk, he remembered watching Earth for years. He had read reports, studied their wars, listened to their broadcasts, tracked their rockets. Humans were loud, messy, divided, and always fighting, but now? Now they stood before the galaxy like titans, and they had done it in secret. Trellin didn't know what hurt more, the shock or the shame. A door opened behind him. Light poured in. A figure stepped inside, tall, human. Commander Ralek. Trellin looked up slowly. You, he said. The galaxy was changing. It started slowly, like the first light of morning after a long night. But soon the change spread fast like fire across dry land. Humanity had returned to the stars not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something new, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen on the planet Varel Prime. The sky was full of ships. Not warships, not invaders. Peacekeepers. Human ships floated above the cities, not to threaten, but to offer protection. To show that this was not the end of the old order, but the start of a better one. Trellin stood on the balcony of the Ministry Tower. Watching them, he still didn't fully understand humans. They were loud, they argued. They made mistakes. They also grew. Where other species clung to old laws and traditions, humans built, changed, and moved forward. Trellin turned as Commander Ralek approached. You look deep in thought. Ralek said, I am, Trellin replied. I spent my life believing we were the most advanced, the most civilized. Ralek smiled. And now? Trellin looked back at the sky. Now I see we were just asleep. Ralek nodded. That's why we waited. We knew you weren't ready for us, and we weren't ready for you. Trellin sighed. So what happens now? Ralek looked up at the ships. Now, he said, we begin again. Back on Earth, preparations were underway. A summit unlike any before it was being held, not on a Concord world. Not in secret, but here on the home of the species that had been ignored, watched and underestimated. Earth. Delegates from across the stars arrived. Some came with fear. Others with hope. A few came with doubt, but all came. The Felari Union brought gifts of knowledge and music. The Cleric Empire sent warriors, not to fight, but to learn. Even some members of the Concord of Stars arrived, unsure but willing to talk. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy gathered not under one rule, but under one idea that maybe, just maybe, humanity had something worth listening to. In the Great Hall of New Geneva, where the summit would take place, flags flew side by side, alien and human. At the center stood a large stage, and on that stage, Commander Ralek took his place. Behind him, a massive screen lit up. Before him, hundreds of representatives sat in silence. Ralek looked around, then he spoke. My name is Commander Ralek of the Terran Dominion of Sovereign Worlds. You have known us only through secrecy, through silence, through shadow. He paused. But today we stand in the light. His voice grew stronger. For too long, the galaxy has been ruled by fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of those who are different. He looked directly at the leaders before him. We did not come to take your power. We came to remind you what real strength looks like. He raised a hand. To be strong is not to control others. It is to protect them, to lift them up, to give them a chance to grow. Silence filled the room. Then, slowly, a single figure stood, Ambassador Lyral of the Felari Union. She stepped forward. I believe you, she said, and I believe in what you offer. One by one, others rose, not all, but enough. And then came the final message. Sent across every channel, every language, every corner of known space, greater than to all who wish peace. Join us. To all who wish freedom, walk with us. To all who fear the dark, we will stand between you and the unknown. We are humanity, and we are not alone anymore. Far beyond the edge of known space, something stirred, something ancient. Something powerful. Its shape was unknown, its purpose unclear, but its movement was fast, and it was heading inward, toward the heart of the galaxy. On board Dominion Prime, sensors flared. An officer turned to Captain Dane. Sir, he said, we've picked up something moving near the rim, fast, unknown origin. Captain Dane looked at the screen, then he smiled. Looks like our first real test. He pressed the comm button. All ships, prepare for departure. Behind him, the view showed Earth shrinking into the distance, a small, blue-green world. Once forgotten. Now feared. Now respected. Now leading the way. The fleet turned toward the unknown. The final words echoed through the command deck. Greater than let them come. Let them see what happens when they threaten a galaxy defended by humanity. That's the end of the story. Let me know if you'd like a sequel, or if you want this expanded into a full novel or series. Me, he replied. You've asked many questions about us. You deserve some answers. Trellin didn't move. How? He finally asked. How did you hide from us, from the Concorde? Ralek walked over and sat across from him. We didn't hide, he said. We just chose when to be seen. And then, for the first time, Trellin heard the truth. Years ago, during what humans called the global collapse, Earth had nearly destroyed itself. War, famine, disease, and climate disaster had pushed humanity to the edge. But instead of falling, they had come together, not because of leaders. Not because of power, because they had no choice. From the ashes rose something new. The Terran Dominion of sovereign worlds, a united Earth, not under one ruler, but under one purpose. To survive, to grow, to rise, and to never again be watched. Like children waiting to grow up. Scientists worked together like never before. Engineers built machines that bent physics. AI systems helped design weapons and ships faster than any single mind could imagine. But most importantly, humanity learned to keep secrets. They built bases beneath oceans and mountains. They created ships that could fold space without leaving a trace. They placed fake satellites to fool watchers like Trellin. Every move was planned. Every step hidden. Until now. Until the day they decided the galaxy would see them not as a joke, not as a threat, but as equals or more, back on Earth. Preparations continued. The challenge had been sent. Now the galaxy had to respond. Some species refused. The Growth Dominion cut all contact, claiming they would never bow to an upstart race. Others, like the Thalari Union, sent messages of joy and hope, asking for guidance, knowledge, friendship. And then there were those who saw the challenge as a test of strength. The Clyric Empire. Proud warriors of Zorath answered with action. Their fleet jumped into Sol System with full battle array, ready to fight. But humanity did not panic. Instead, Dominion Prime responded with a message. Greater than if you wish to prove yourself. Clyric, then prove it not with war but with peace. The Clyric did not understand at first. But when human ships surrounded them not with weapons, but with shields, they realized something strange. These humans were not afraid. They did not want to destroy. They wanted to show what they had already become. After long talks, the Clyric left not defeated, but changed. They returned home and declared, greater than the humans are not weak. They do not fear us, and they have something we do not. What is that? Their leader asked. They believe in something stronger than war. And what is that? Hope. On Varel Prime, Trellin sat in silence after hearing Ralek's story. So, he said finally, you didn't need our approval. No, Ralek said, we needed our own. Trellin looked down. Then why reveal yourselves now? Ralek leaned forward. Because we saw what the Concorde has become. Stuck, afraid, controlling others out of fear. Not wisdom, he paused, and because we saw danger coming. Trellin frowned. What kind of danger? Ralek didn't answer right. Away, instead. He pulled up a star map on his wrist device. It showed the outer edges of known space. And near the rim, something dark was moving. Something old. Something unknown. The galaxy isn't safe, Ralek said. And now it has a new protector. Trellin stared at the screen. For the first time, he wasn't sure if he should feel fear or relief. Outside, the sky above Varel Prime lit up. Human ships had arrived, not to conquer, but to remind everyone, greater than humanity is here. And this time, they're not hiding. The galaxy was old. Older than most could understand. It had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a distant shore. It had watched stars burn bright and then fade into dust. And now it was ruled by the Concord of Stars, a great alliance. of ancient alien species who believed themselves to be the final word in galactic order. The Concord was not cruel, but it was cold. It did not seek war, but it did not tolerate chaos. It believed that peace came from control, and control came from isolation. So, they made a rule greater than no new species would be allowed into the galactic community until they reached the stars on their own, and proved they were peaceful enough to be trusted. This rule had been in place for thousands of years, and so, when the planet known as Earth was discovered, small blue-green world orbiting a minor yellow sun, it was placed under quiet observation. Not for study, not for contact, but for control. The Watchers were the Virelians, a pale-skinned, four-eyed race with long limbs and even longer memories. They were not warriors or scientists, but bureaucrats, organizers, record-keepers. They did not build wonders or fight wars. Instead, they made reports and filled forms and sent them back to the Concord from their hidden orbital station. Far beyond the sight of human eyes, the Virelian observer, he had watched it for over 20 of its years. He saw how divided it was. How many languages, how many nations, how much fighting. He saw cities grow and fall, weapons built and used, people rising up only to be crushed again. To Trellin, Earth was nothing special. He sat in his small office aboard the Virelian observation. Post-Aetheris 9, sipping from a cup of warm root tea. Outside the window, Earth glowed softly in the dark void. Its lights blinked like fireflies trapped in a jar. Another report, he muttered. Tapping at his console, the screen lit up with data, greater than designation. Terra 7Z, greater than species. Humans. Status. Pre-space flight, greater than threat level. Low, greater than cultural complexity. Moderate. Recommended action. Continued monitoring. Trellin yawned. This was his 10th update this cycle. All the same. Old boring, he typed a short summary, greater than no major developments. Still no interstellar capability, still at war with itself. No signs of external awareness. He pressed send. The message flew through the subspace relay and vanished into the deep. Network of the Concord. Another day. Another form filled. Trellin leaned back in his chair and looked out the window again. Humans were strange, loud, emotional, always building things, always breaking them. They had potential, sure, but not yet. Maybe in a few thousand years if they didn't destroy themselves first, but Trellin wasn't worried. Because humans were alone. That was the rule. That was the law. Until they reached the stars, they were not to be touched, not to be helped, not to be warned. So Earth remained untouched, uncontacted, ignored, even though they were not as blind as the Concord thought, even though someone on Earth had already seen the Watchers, even though someone had already begun to plan, but Trellin didn't know that. He just saw what he wanted to see, a primitive world. A noisy rock. A Tier Z file, nothing more. He closed his eyes and let himself drift off to sleep, floating in silence above a planet that, according to the Concord, did not yet matter. He never noticed the faint ripple in space behind the moon. A ripple that wasn't natural, a ripple that wasn't Virelian, a ripple that belonged to something else. Something watching, something waiting. Something human. Deep in space, far beyond the orbit of Neptune, something impossible happened. A ripple tore through the fabric of space. Not natural, not random. It was precise, like a door opening after being locked for centuries. Then came the light. It wasn't just bright, it was wrong. Like stars folding into themselves and then exploding in silence, and from that tier in space, they arrived. Ships, big ones, not like anything ever seen before. They were shaped like blades, long, dark, and heavy with power. Their hulls gleamed with armor that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. They moved without sound, as if space itself bent around them in respect. There were 12 of them, each one larger than most Virelian space stations. They formed a perfect line and stared silently at the inner solar system. No signal. Number. Warning. Just their presence, and someone on the other side noticed. Trellin woke up to alarms. At first, he thought it was a drill, or maybe a malfunction. But the screen told him otherwise. Greater than **** unknown fleet detected. 12 vessels, unknown origin. No, ID match in Concord database, ***. He blinked. Then blinked again. Impossible, he muttered. He pulled up the external sensors. The view made his breath catch. 12 massive ships, floating near Earth. He zoomed in. Tried to scan. His system sent out pings, pulses, queries. Nothing came back. The human world below had not launched these ships. That much was clear. Earth's rockets were still small, loud, and slow. These things? They didn't even look real. Trellan's hands shook as he opened a high-priority channel to the Concorde. This is Trellan of Observation Post Aetheris 9, he said quickly. We have an emergency. Unknown fleet has entered Sol system. Repeat, unknown fleet. Silence on the other end. Then a voice crackled back. Greater than, say again, observer? I said, Trellan repeated, louder this time. Earth is no longer alone. Back. On Earth, the world did not panic. Because this was not an invasion. This was a return. From deep underground bases. Hidden under oceans and mountains, signals were sent. Silent commands. Long-awaited orders. Across the planet, people stood up not in fear, but in pride. In cities built with new materials. In labs filled with minds that never stopped asking questions. In secret fleets hidden behind false satellite networks, the truth was revealed. Humanity had been ready for a long time, far above the Pacific Ocean. Inside a massive structure disguised as a weather control center, a man in a gray uniform looked at the screen and smiled. His name was *** Commander. Ralek ***, and he was not military in the old sense. He was part of something bigger now. Behind him, others stood in silence. One by one, lights blinked on across the room. Ships reporting in. Systems coming online. Ralek turned to his team. They've been watching us for years, he said. Thinking we were weak, thinking we were blind. He stepped forward, but we saw them too. On board the lead ship, Dominion Prime, the captain gave a simple order, greater than begin final phase. And then the fleet moved. They split into groups. Some went toward Mars, others toward Jupiter. One stayed near Earth, but none fired a shot. Instead, they broadcast, across every language, every frequency, every form of communication known to humanity. A message was sent. It was short, ***, to the galaxy. We are here, we have always been here, and we are not alone anymore. ***, back aboard the Varelian station. Trellan watched in horror as the largest ship turned toward him. Its engines glowed blue-white. Not like any energy he knew. He tried to run a full scan. Again, harder. Still nothing. No data? He whispered. Then. The message came. A single pulse, clean, clear, loud. It was not a threat. It was a greeting, greater than ***, Varelians. You have observed us for decades. Now you will learn what you failed to see. ***, Trellan froze. This wasn't possible. Humans were supposed to be primitive, divided, weak. But this? This was the work of a species that had not only mastered space travel, they had mastered secrecy. Now they were done hiding, down on Earth. The sky lit up with ships that had never been seen before, not alien, not borrowed. Ours.